Hey, my creative friends. My name is Shannon from Shannon Studio. And you can find me at shannonstudio.com, 2 S's in between those 2 words. And I come and we talk about creativity. That's what we do. We talk about a creative lifestyle, what it looks like, what it feels like, what we might need to do to change some of the things in our lives or continue to do some of the things in our lives. So, let's see. And I wanted to thank some of you for sending my link off to somebody and to sharing that. Thank you for doing that. And let's see. Yesterday was World Nutella Day and I missed it. Alan loves Nutella and I totally put it in my calendar to tell him and have this thing and I totally missed it. You know, funny thing, if you have a calendar, you probably should look at it. Just saying. Okay, so it's the love month here, and so we are going to talk about marriage. Marriage is huge and important to me, and so though I know some people aren't married, the principles still apply in your circumstance. Usually you can find a way that those circumstances apply. So, and so we're going to spend up until Valentine's talking about marriage tips, and creativity and how we might change, be creative and change a few things, or be creative and kind of lean into some things so that we can have better relationships. So today what I wanted to talk about was having to do with small things. Do the small things in your marriage. There's a quote by Sinek that he says, what really matters are the acts of consistency. The teeny little things that by themselves actually do nothing, but in combination and accumulation actually are more significant in creating a healthy culture. Now, I think he was talking more about business, but you know that can apply to relationships, all relationships, and in particular, a marriage relationship. And so I really liked, I went with the idea of looking at the small things we do. And that it's not just one thing. So in marriage, man, we do things to each other sometimes. I think about, and they're terrible. They're terrible things. And you go, some people go, well, that was bad. Why did she stay with him? Or why does he stay with her? It's because we mess up. I mean, that's the bottom line. We mess up in all of our relationships. And it can be particularly sensitive in a marriage relationship. We mess up. But what we do look at is the totality of the relationship. All the things, not just one thing. I often teach my kids, don't make the judgment call on one thing. The one thing might be a warning, but it doesn't necessarily create the whole picture. Tricia says, hey Tricia, Koi has a gift for doing the small things. We laugh a lot. I see that in Koi. I happen to know Tricia and Koi. And yeah, I can totally see that. And Koi is just very what's the word I'm looking for? He's unassuming, I think is the word. Unassuming and just goes about doing good everywhere and just quietly going about doing it. Yes, he's a good example. So, what was I saying? Small things. Yes, the accumulation, the consistency of them. So that's why sometimes we'll do one thing and it might damage things, and we might have to do some explaining and some reckoning and some repenting and changing, but that it hasn't just torn it or blown it up, the relationship completely apart. It's because some of the other things we've done on the other days have accumulated and made it so you go, okay, this needs to be addressed, but it's not the end. So, and I liked the visual that came to me of water and the drip of the water being, the water representing marriage, but the drip of the water could be either something that erodes, like if it's a river and a water, it can either erode the banks, slowly just eating away the banks, making it collapse, destroying it, or it could be polishing the stones. It could be smoothing it over. It can be making them glossy and just kind of, we did a rock wall, and Trisha will remember this probably. We did a rock wall in our home in Provo, and we got all these stones from my husband's parents' property, because they have this little river, or this little stream that goes through, and sometimes it's pretty high, but it's polished all these rocks, and they're wonderful, and they're smooth, and they're just like these perfect things. And so we gathered up all these rocks and made this little stone walls. And that's what the water can also do, is smooth and just take off the rough edges. And it's interesting too, because when the water's doing that, it's still using friction, it's still using rubbing. It's not just like this smooth sailing. It's still, but it's the way it's done. It's this gentleness of it as well, of that going over. So I liked that metaphor when I, and bringing that in. Sometimes, a lot of times, we will use different things to give more meaning to what we're talking about. So the idea of doing little things, do the small things, do the little things in your marriage. Thomas S. Monson said, "I have been thinking recently about choices and their consequences. It has been said that the gate of history turns on small hinges, and so do people's lives. The choices we make determine our destiny." So I like to look at that too, is our marriage. Our marriages turn on small hinges. Just like if you are growing apart, it doesn't usually happen in one gigantic single event. It is usually a small erosion. So by virtue and implied, you can turn it around and by small ways strengthen the relationship and make that big old door of marriage turn on those small little hinges. So I was thinking about what Alan, my husband, I call him the boyfriend, what he does, and I've been thinking about the small things that he does, and it's like he always is worried about my safety. He will always lock the doors of the house, but he'll go on, he'll do old school. He'll go on the side of the street when walking down the street. He puts me on the inside, he goes on the outside, so if something happens. And so he's always doing that safety thing. And it was so funny because the other day I'm like, he almost ran me over when we were walking. He almost ran me. I go, "What's the deal?" He goes, "Well, I was so concentrating on making sure that no bike came around the corner to hit you." And I just laughed because I'm like, yeah, he is. I mean, he almost mowed me down himself, but he was so intent on, taking care and protecting. He always lets me have the best of whatever. The best food, the best car, the best view, anything that's the best, he is giving it to me. He does, the small things, always kissing when we leave or when we come home, that greeting, and he always carries things for me. It's like he wants to do that to make it easier for me. And like every day, I just think every day, he gets up early. He's always gotten up early for work. He gets up, I just think, I hate mornings. I would hate to get up at this time all the time. But he gets up without, and that's just a small thing that he is happy to be able to go to work in order to provide for a family. So he just has these things, reading to Joseph every night, and just all these little things that he does that add to our marriage. And so I asked him, I said, "Is there anything little that I do for you that you are just a vulnerable thing?" It kind of puts you out there to ask something like that because, you're not sure what you're going to hear. And it's like, I'm not sure I do things. So anyways, he was like, "Yeah, you give me notes and messages. You make my treats, and even changing from night dates to day dates." He goes, "You call me boyfriend." And I was like, I didn't even think that said, we have our private jokes, and I don't give him a hard time for working long hours. And then he said, and then this one, I was just, he said, "You've always put me above the kids." And I thought, we've always done that. We just always have done that, but I didn't know it meant so much to him. So, you know, if you're doing the small things and your relationship's good, just talk about the things that you do, the small things you've been doing, and just have that kind of appreciation. Deliberate about, you know, going, okay, do I do small things? Let me look at it. Do a little self-evaluation, and then maybe, you know, step it up a little bit and make sure you're doing them consistently, because it's the consistency. Neil A. Maxwell says, what we insistently desire over time is what we will eventually become. So if you want to be a good spouse, then do the things that a good spouse does, and have that desire, and those things are going to start to come out. And be creative and fun about it. It doesn't have to be like this drag thing, you know, that I have to do this. It's do the fun things. There is so much, you know, when Alan said that we have our private jokes, we laugh sometimes so much, because it's just some of the things that we've done together, some of the, you know, things that have played out. It's just funny, and we have fun. And so that's the tip for tonight. Do the small things in your marriage. Do the small things in your marriage. Find the small things you do, and the small things that your spouse likes that you do, and then make sure you don't skip a beat with those. So yes, that's the tip for tonight. So I'm trying to think, is there anything else? Don't think so. I have a lot of creativity things going around in my head. Since I'm taking this class, we meet 2 times a week, and just a lot of energy, a lot of good things. And so I am just really, I don't know, I think the biggest thing is a creative lifestyle just makes my life exciting. When I look at the things I'm doing, it's just, I mean, yeah, there's days that I'm going, oh man, I feel like I'm 100 years old, or yeah, you know, there's things, but on the whole, it's just, I like my life. So, all right, so, in your marriage, remember back tomorrow. Bye.